This is Dr. Leven coming to you for the VIP team, the first global university where the student gets paid to study. And in our study, we're up to chapter 4 of the Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Waddell, written in 1910. Now, it is essential that you do view each chapter consequent to the other. So therefore, if you have not seen chapter 1, 2, or 3, or even if it's been a while, I would urge you first go ahead and go to our YouTube channel and view the 3 chapters before tackling this one. This is an exciting one. This one digs in deep, and this is where it becomes very real. Chapter 4 is the first principle. Thought is the only power which can produce tangible riches from the formless substance. The stuff from which all things are made is a substance which thinks. A thought of form in this substance produces the form. Original substance moves according to its thoughts. Every form and process you see in nature is the visible expression of a thought in original substance. As the formless stuff thinks of a form, it takes that form. As it thinks of a motion, it makes that motion. That is the way all things were created. We live in a thought world, which is part of a thought universe. The thought of a moving universe extended throughout formless substance, and the thinking stuff moving according to that thought took the form of systems of planets and maintains that form. Thinking substance takes the form of its thought, and it moves according to the thought. Holding the idea of a circling system of suns and worlds, it takes the form of these bodies and moves them as it thinks. Thinking the form of a slow-growing oak tree, it moves accordingly and produces the oak tree, though centuries may be required to do the work. In creating, the formless seems to move according to the lines of motion it has established. The thought of an oak tree does not cause the instant formation of a full-grown tree, but it does start in motion the forces which will produce the tree along established lines of growth. Every thought of form held in thinking substance causes the creation of the form, but always, or at least generally, along the lines of growth and action already established. The thought of a house, of a certain construction, if it were impressed upon formless substance, might not cause the instant formation of the house, but it will cause the turning of creative energies already working in trade and commerce into such channels as to result into the speedy building of the house. And if there were no existing channels through which the creative energy could work, the house would be formed directly from the primal substance, without waiting for the slow processes of the organic or inorganic world. No thought of form can be impressed upon original substance without causing the creation of the form. Man is a thinking center. and can originate thought. All the forms that man fashions with his hands must first exist in his thought. He cannot shape a thing until he has thought of that thing. And so far man has confined his efforts wholly to the work of his hands. He has applied manual labor to the world of forms, seeking to change or modify those already existing. He has never thought of trying to cause the creation of new forms by impressing his thoughts upon formless substance. When man has a thought form, he takes material from the forms of nature, he makes an image of the form which is in his mind. He has so far made little or no effort to cooperate with formless intelligence, to work with the Father. He has not dreamed that he can do what he sees the Father doing. Man reshapes and modifies existing forms by manual labor. He has given no attention to the question whether he may not produce things from formless substance by communicating his thoughts to it. We propose to prove that he may do so, to prove that any man or woman may do so, and to show how. As our first step, we must lay down 3 fundamental propositions. First, we assert that there is one original formless stuff or substance from which all things are made. All the seemingly many elements are but different presentations of one element. All the many forms found in organic and inorganic nature are but different shapes made from the same stuff. And this stuff is thinking stuff. A thought held in it produces the form of the thought. Thought in thinking substance produces shapes. Man is a thinking center capable of original thought. If man can communicate his thought to original thinking substance, he can cause the creation or formation of the thing he thinks about. To summarize this: 1. There is a thinking stuff from which all things are made, and which in its original state permeates, penetrates, and fills the interspaces of the universe. 2. A thought in this substance produces the thing that it is imaged by the thought. 3. Man can form things in his thought, and by impressing his thought upon formless substance can cause the thing he thinks about to be created. It may be asked if I can prove these statements, and without going into details, I answer that I can do so, both by logic and experience. Reasoning back from the phenomena of form and thought, I come to one original thinking substance. And reasoning forward from this thinking substance, I come to man's power to cause the formation of the thing he thinks about. And by experiment, I find this reasoning true, and this is my strongest proof. If one man who reads this book gets rich by doing what it tells him to do, that is evidence in support of my claim. However, if every man who does what it tells him to do to get rich, that is prove until someone goes through the process and fails. The theory is true until the process fails. And the process will not fail, for every man who does exactly what this book tells him to do will get rich. I've said that men get rich by doing things in a certain way. And in order to do so, men must become able to think in a certain way. And man's way of doing things is the direct result of the way he thinks about things. To do things in a way you want to do them, you will have to acquire the ability to think the way you want to think. This is the first step towards getting rich. To think what you want to think is to think truth, regardless of appearances. Every man has the natural and inherent power to think what he wants to think, but it requires far more effort to do so than it does to think the thoughts which are suggested by appearances. To think according to appearance is easy. To think truth, regardless of appearances, is laborious and requires the expenditure of more power than any other work man is called upon to perform. There is no labor from which most people shrink as they do from that of sustained and consecutive thought. It is the hardest work in the world. This is especially true when truth is contrary to appearances. Every appearances in the visible world tends to produce a corresponding form in the mind which observes it. And this can only be prevented by holding the thought of the truth. To look upon the appearance of a disease will produce the form of the disease in your own mind and ultimately in your body, unless you hold the thought of the truth, which is that there is no disease. There is only appearance, and the reality is health. To look upon the appearances of poverty will produce corresponding forms in your own mind unless you hold the truth that there is no poverty, that there is only abundance. To think health when surrounded by the appearances of disease, or to think riches when in the midst of appearances of poverty, requires power. But he who acquires this power becomes a mastermind. He can conquer fate. He can have whatever he wants. This power can only be acquired by getting a hold of the basic fact which is behind all appearances. And that fact is that there is one thinking substance from which and by which all things are made. Then we must grasp the truth that every thought held in this substance becomes a form. And that man can so impress his thoughts upon it as to cause them to take form and become visible things. When we realize this, we lose all doubt and fear, for we know that we can create what we want to create. We can get what we want to have. We can become what we want to be. As a first step towards getting rich, you must believe these three fundamental statements given previously in this chapter. And in order to emphasize them, I repeat them here. 1. There is a thinking stuff from which all things are made, in which, in its original state, permeates, penetrates, and fills the interspaces of the universe. 2. A thought in this substance produces the thing that is imaged by the thought. 3. Man can form things in his thought, and by impressing his thought upon formless substance, he can cause the thing he thinks about to be created. You must lay aside all other concepts of the universe than this monistic one, and you must dwell upon this until it's fixed in your mind and has become your habitual thought. Read these creed statements over and over and over again. Fix every word upon your memory and meditate upon them until you firmly believe what they say. If a doubt comes to you, cast it aside as a sin. Don't listen to arguments against this idea. Don't go to churches or lectures where a contrary concept of things is taught or preached. Do not read magazines or books which teach a different idea. If you get mixed up in your faith, all your efforts will be in vain. Do not ask why these things are true, nor speculate as to how they can be true. Simply take them on trust. Because the science of getting rich begins with the absolute acceptance of this faith. Given the importance of these 3 fundamental statements, this is me adding this to the sideline, I will end this class with yet another repetition of these 3 truth principles. 1. There is a thinking stuff from which all things are made, and which in its original state permeates, penetrates, and fills the interspaces of the universe. 2. A thought in this substance produces the thing that it is imaged by the thought. 3. Man can form things in his thought, and by impressing his thought upon formless substance, can cause the thing he thinks about to be created. And this completes chapter 4. Chapter 5 is going to be under the title Increasing Life. Please share these wonderful lessons with your friends, your family. You may even want to sit down with your children and try. In the future, the VIP team will also have classes at a children's level. But that's the kind of stuff we all should have learned at school, right? Well, now it's better, because now we have a school, we have a global university where we can be paid to study. I'm one of those students. I don't want to be paid by the VIP team. I want to be paid as a student studying. If you want to understand that, watch the video. Where is the money coming from? It'll explain in detail how we make this happen. If you haven't done already so, sign up for a free account with the VIP team. Then join us on Skype and on Facebook. Come ask us any question. I want to thank you for watching this video. This is a heavy-duty one. You may want to play it a number of times over and over again until you feel you got it, until you feel you believe it. At that time, inevitably, you will get rich. Thank you.